Good morning, dear students. Today we'll be learning about the organization of the nervous system. And out of this organization, I'll be focusing on the peripheral nervous system. Our nervous system has a central part and a peripheral part. So we'll be learning about the peripheral part. The central part we'll be learning later part of the thing. These lectures are coming in a sequence. You have found two lectures connected to the nervous system. They were covered in foundation. Then I talked about when I was talking about the formation of brachial plexus. Now I'm talking here where I'm talking about the organization of the peripheral nervous system, and here I'll be emphasizing more on the autonomic component. And then in GI we'll be using them, and then CVP again you'll find another lecture. There I'll be talking more about the supplies and this and that. And then this is how we are and this whole thing, this whole cycle will be done when you'll be in your neuroscience block next year inshallah. So now, the nervous system, we can see that on top we have brain, and that extend as spinal cord, and it goes all the way down. So broadly we divide it into a central nervous system and a peripheral nervous system. So central nervous system, we talk about brain and spinal cord. But for peripheral nervous system, we talk about the things which are coming from my brain and from my spinal cord. So what are these things? What are these structures, these innervating wires? These are cranial nerves which are coming from my brain. So they are 12 cranial nerves. They are pairs, 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Then, so main focus will be here. We are not touching this part. That will be coming in neuroscience next year inshallah. So now the peripheral nervous system is broadly divided into somatic part and autonomic part. Somatic part we learn about our brachial plexus, where we talk about motor and sensory. And now, we didn't emphasize much on the autonomic division. So now I'll be emphasizing here. So we have to add on because they go together. They are the component, they are the subtype of my peripheral nervous system. And there we'll be looking into, look at it, there is sensory, there is sensory, there is motor, there is motor. But how it is, so we need to understand that. For that, we need a spreadsheet. This spreadsheet will explain a lot about today. So now in this spreadsheet, what is my focus? So what are the structures we have? The structures and the supplies are either motor supply or sensory supply. Motor means coming from the brain. Sensory means going towards the brain. Simple. Now the word somatic is derived from soma. You have been explained in your developmental lectures. And what comes under this? The things which develops from my somatic mesoderm. So what are those things? Skin, muscle, bones, body walls, and parietal membranes. What are these? We didn't talk about them. We only talk about one of them, that was periosteum. The remaining ones, what are these parietal membranes? The membranes which covers my lungs, my heart, and my GI organs. These are the parietal membranes. So these are the structures which develop from somatic mesoderm, and we'll be learning how they are receiving their nerve supply from the brain and how the nerves are going to the brain from these structures, these organs. Now the second variant, the second group of structures are the organs, viscerals. We call them visceral or splanchnic, same word. So they are developing from where? Splanchnic mesoderm. And what are they? I told you about heart, lungs, liver, glands, you can add on in this list. Now another thing, visceral membrane. So visceral membrane are those membranes which cover these organs, and parietal membranes are those membranes which cover the body walls. So now spinal nerves. We have touched upon this topic before when we were talking about brachial plexus. And spinal nerves, we learn where? What? That there are certain feelings, pain, touch, proprioception, temperature, chemoreception. So they all been carried by, these senses has been carried by my spinal nerves through their cutaneous or sensory branches. Cutaneous under the skin. So this is how they've been carrying. And these pains were sharp and well localized. If somebody is puncturing, if you have a needle which is pricking at a body part in your finger, you will simply say exactly at my fingertip I have a pain. You're not saying in my whole hand. Where? I don't know. Maybe here, maybe here. No, you are very localized. You are very focused. So that's why this pain is sharp and very localized, because wheresoever this pin is pricking, that is the part we are talking. Now the second component is autonomic system. So autonomic system broadly covers two components, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Under this sympathetic, you can see there's something written T1 to L2. What is that? That we need to learn. And then these are some numbers. What are these numbers? Yes, these numbers we need to know. Let me reveal something out of this. C and word stand for cranial nerve. So these are certain names, numbers of those cranial nerves which we'll be talking. For the innervation, for the control of the autonomic nervous system. And then autonomic nervous system, now primarily the sensory thing is traversing by this sympathetic component and the vagus. Vagus has the parasympathetic component. Number 10 goes to the vagus. And what type of, here we are very clear. If a needle pricks in your finger, you get a sharp pain, which is well localized. Now, respond to stretch, ischemia. What are these terms? Maybe you didn't heard of them. So ischemia, let's make life easy. The coronary arteries which supply the heart, the arteries which carries blood to the heart, if they have been narrowed down by some bad habits. So now less blood is going. When less blood is going and my heart is pumping, so less blood is going. So there I have a specific type of pain. This is due to low supply of oxygenated blood, and that referred to as ischemia, and that will manifest as angina, heart attack. So this is how. The second thing is stretch. What stretch? Let me give you an example. Ureter is a tube which carries urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. If a stone stuck in the ureter, ureter is a small muscular tube made up of smooth muscle. So if a stone stuck in this tube, now urine is not going down. So as a result, what happens? This tube starts expanding. So this expansion will cause stretch. So this stretch initiate a pain, and this pain is radiated. So how this pain will go? This pain will be dull, vague, ill-focused. You cannot exactly say pain is, the stone is stuck in the middle of the ureter and you are pointing out to your medial side of your thigh. So that's quite, weird. But this is how it is. It's not well localized. It is ill-focused. It's vague. But there are characteristics, and that we'll be learning in short period of time. Don't worry for that. Now, spinal nerves we have done. We know about them. I know. I'll be just reviewing shortly. But I'll be spending a little bit time on understanding of sympathetic part of my autonomic. Now, I'll not be touching parasympathetics here. Now, spinal nerve, we can see coming from the both sides of the spinal cord. And then, if you look at a broad picture, a dissected picture, look at the spinal cord and look at the roots of the spinal nerve. They are making my spinal nerves. Look at them, they are going down. They are numerous, they are 31 pairs. And now, their organization. We have these, we talk about these C5 to T1. They were making my brachial plexus, which was controlling my upper limb. And now we are talking about the lumbar plexus and the sacral plexus, which are controlling my lower limb. So these are the spinal nerve. So let's look at how a spinal nerve is formed. So spinal nerve, we are looking at a section of the spinal cord. And inside, this is the gray matter and this is the white matter. So this gray matter, you can see that there's a broad end, there's a narrow end. These have names. So let's label it. So now, white matter we talk about, gray matter we talk about. Now, anteriorly, look at it. This is broad. Someone lives here. This is a motor nucleus, motor neuron cell body. And from here I get my motor fiber, which brings orders from my brain, from my higher center, for bringing some action. And now this is anterior ventral. What? Root. Ventral or anterior root. Now sensory. They are sitting where? In the posterior or dorsal root. But why this is smooth? Why this is swollen? There is a reason for that. And the reason is dorsal root ganglion. The sensory nucleus does not live here. Look at it. It's narrow. It's broad. So it lives here. And then sensory neuron cell body. And then it's connected backwards to the spinal cord. And it goes forward to supply, to carry innervation from the part of the body, wheresoever it is. Are we good? So this is the sensory, and we call it dorsal root. We look at, this is the dorsal root or posterior root, this is the ventral root or anterior root. Now, this is called what? Together. Can we call it spinal nerve? Not yet. We have to talk something more. Today we are talking about something different. So what I'm saying, all of these 31 pairs of spinal nerve, they have sympathetic. Why we need sympathetic? Think, don't we have smooth muscles? Where? In our glands. What glands? Sweat glands. Blood vessel walls. So many places. They need their supplies. So how they get their supplies? So for them, we talk about this term. T1 and L2 are the only component where we have lateral horn. Can you see that? There is something special here. That's called lateral horn. Otherwise, we were learning about anterior horn, posterior horn. But this is a special thing. And this is only present at T10 to L2. So first thoracic to second lumbar vertebrae. So 12 thoracic vertebrae and 2 lumbar vertebrae I can find if I take a section of the spinal cord. So if you're shown a section of the spinal cord and it is showing a bulge in the middle which is going outwards laterally. So don't get confused. This is nothing but a lateral horn, and this is specific for these segments only. From T1, T2, T3, T4 till T12 and L1 and L2. So this bulge is there. Why this bulge is there? Because my sympathetic neuron lives here. So this sympathetic neuron lives here, and that has only been, so this term, never forget, T1 to L2. So now from here, I get my sympathetic. But it's not going with them. What it has done, it has entered into another swollen part. This is called as a ganglion. Ganglion of what? Sympathetic chain. So this is, and it comes and it opens up here. So it's not going direct. What happens to that? So this is my sympathetic fibers in the ventral root. We have not seen going in the dorsal root. And what it does, it relays here. We all know what is a relay. It split here, and then another neuron pathway starts with a different color. So can I call it pre and can I call it post? Yes. And now, when I have this yellow, red and green, now I call it a spinal nerve. Without that, it was not. And this one, this swollen part which is attached to my spinal nerve, we call it sympathetic trunk ganglion, and we'll be looking at it shortly. So this is important, and that we need to know. So together is, so can we say now, a spinal nerve have motor, sensory and sympathetic? Perfect. So now, look at it. In this picture, this is a schematic picture. It's not a real one. Look at a brain and a spinal cord. And look at it. This segment only you takes out these sympathetics out of it. Other areas you will not. And this is a sympathetic chain which extends from the lower part of my body all the way up to the neck. And then we have these sympathetic fibers. They are going to head and neck structure. Sympathetic fiber, they are going to my heart and lungs. And then you can see in my GI and the lower pelvic organ. So I'm having all these sympathetic supplies. So now let's explore it. Let's see, and you can see on the other side you have been shown in the skin you have these muscles which are making your hairs which are there on your extremities become erect and all that under different situation. We have sweat glands, so they've been controlled by these things. So this is the sympathetic system, sympathetic pathways, sympathetic part of my peripheral autonomic nervous system. Now, this is a sympathetic chain. You can see that there is a parallel chain which exists from top to bottom. What happens here? So now to understand that sympathetic nerves, we are taking a section at C8 and first thoracic vertebrae for an example. So I like to show you both of the version. C8 we didn't include in that list. So can you differentiate? Yes, I can. I cannot see any lateral horn here. I can see an anterior horn, I can see a posterior horn, but there's no lateral horn. But if I look at my T1, there I can see there's a lateral horn. That's the difference. So it means what? I don't have any sympathetic neuron here. But here I have a sympathetic neuron. So that's the first difference. So there it is. Now what happens? We talk about T1 to L2 or L3, even some books write L3. So now this is my sympathetic, right guys? Now I'm taking only sympathetic. I'm not showing you motor and sensory here. So this sympathetic, we talk about that with the spinal nerve. This is a paravertebral, means parallel to my vertebrae. I have a chain made up of these ganglions. So we call it sympathetic ganglion, and this is a sympathetic trunk. Look at this spinal nerve, which I'm showing you only the sympathetic component. It goes, and what it does, we talk about it, it relays here in the sympathetic trunk ganglion. And this entry part has a name, white rami committance. And then it relays into another neuron, which is my postganglionic sympathetic neuron. And then it gets out. So this is postganglionic fiber. So it relays here. So the entry part was white rami committance, and exit part is why gray rami committance. Are we good? So you can see that in my dorsal and ventral part, I have my sympathetics available to supply in front of my body, on back of my body, to what? To the smooth muscle, wheresoever they are located. So this is first option. And this is my white rami and gray rami committance. So you have seen that. The entry point is called white rami committance and exit point is called gray rami committance. This is my option 1. This is a normal standard where T1 up till L2 or L3. But I don't have two exit, I don't have any entry point here because I don't have someone who will come here. Let's see what happens at this place. So down, it's going down. My sympathetic, which has reached to my sympathetic chain, through this, it's going down, it's traversing down. And it's going upwards. Okay, so I don't need to drive from here. So anything above to T1, it's been connected to this. I have the sympathetic available in my chain. And even below to L2, I have this sympathetic available in my chain. I cannot take out from my spinal cord, but I can take out from my sympathetic chain, which is present all the locations. So there is only, because from T1 to L2, I have from T1 to L2, I have white and gray rami committance. But above to that and below to L2, I don't have white rami committance. I don't have any lateral horn. So now look at it. So this is gray rami only. And this is option 2. So a spinal nerve above to that gets a sympathetic. A spinal nerve below to L2 or L3 gets a sympathetic. And how it reaches to that? Because it can take from the sympathetic chain. It cannot take from the spinal cord. Now, so this is how my sympathetic is going down. And look at it. What happens? It goes top till my neck. This is my cervical sympathetic, superior cervical ganglion. And now from here, the postganglionic fibers. So it goes with the arteries and it supplies all the organs which are located in my head and neck region. So sympathetic has been distributed. No matter, we cannot take it out. We can only say sympathetic can be taken from spinal cord from T1 to L2. But above to that, we have different options. So this is my option number 3. There are 2 more options. On purpose, I am not talking about those. That I will be talking when I will be taking this lecture with add-ons in the CVP block. Are we clear? So now, let's look at it. Just look at again. Option 1, classic, white and rami committance. White and gray. Option 2, only gray. And here, for my head and neck organs, it's going up. And this is another option which has been removed. So this is for my abdominal organs. You'll use in GI. So now look at it. Spinal cord levels, what we have talked about, how it goes, and everything happens. Are we good? So now this is just for your orientation and this is for your learning. I hope the concept has been cleared. Now, this is a summary. And this has been explaining what we have talked about, that how this all is happening. I hope we are clear. So right now we are just giving you a little part and we are expecting be good with that, and then we will be adding on for our future understanding. Thank you very much, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to write me. Thank you. Bye-bye. Stay home. Stay blessed.